I'd like to talk about mental health. What is mental health? I'd also like to address how mental health impacts our symptoms of grief. But first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Ghazala at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you're here for the first time, you're very, very welcome. Welcome aboard. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate it. Okay? So, mental health. Well, first of all, let's ask that question. What is mental health? What is it? Well, let's talk about what it involves. Okay, it involves how we think. So that's psychological. It also affects how we feel, so physiological, and it also looks at how we behave, so behavioral, how we act. It also covers how we cope or not cope. So how well we're coping with day-to-day life, in dealing with our day-to-day stresses, how we interact with others, how our mental health affects our choices and what sort of choices we make. So it actually covers, so mainly what we need to know is mental health looks at how we think, feel, and behave, pure and simple. All right. So mental health is not rigid. It's not fixed. Okay. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't be right in saying, it wouldn't be true if I said, oh, my mental health is always really good. Well, because it's not. It's fluid. We're talking about the fluidity of mental health. It's not rigid. It's not fixed. It's not, it's continuously shifting. And that is, why it's so complex. So if you imagine a continuum, so I'm going to have a continuum in the air, you've got optimal mental health, and at the bottom you've got sort of, where you might be struggling, so your lowest point of mental health that you can sort of go to. And in between, we've got different levels. So it's continuously moving. All right. So for everyday kind of stresses that we have in our lives, what it means is that if we talk about that continuum again, sort of split up into four, the first quarter, the top quarter, is where we're dealing with everyday kind of stress, getting caught up in traffic, or you go to the grocery store and you're just going there to buy a couple of things and you're in a long queue and there's queues everywhere and you think, oh my goodness, I only wanted some milk and some bread or whatever, and here I am 45 minutes later I'm still in a queue. So things like that sort of really do add on, stress, or you've forgotten to pay your credit card bill, in which case you've, had interest put on. It's just silly everyday type things. Not so much silly, but the everyday things that we do come into contact with, and things that we need to deal with on a daily basis. So it's how is that affecting us? Are we sort of taking it in our stride, or are we allowing those things to, really bombard us, and we're sort of feeling ourselves come down that continuum? All right. So it really is about that. Now, when we're experiencing grief, also, grief is something that we have no control over. We can't just stop feeling grief. I experience grief, as a lot of you know, and some of you may not know. I lost my son 4 years ago, so I am grieving. I have my own way of grieving, and I will never ever stop grieving. I know I won't for the rest of my life, and I'm on this bereavement road, and I describe it as a road because that's how I see it, and that road will take me all the way to my dying day, and I'm going to be on that road, and that's it. That's fact. I can't control that. I can't change that. There's nothing I can do to change that, but there is things that I can do to change and control some of my mental health otherwise, so that I can make the symptoms of grief, I can condense them down as much as I possibly can, so that I can function in this life, in my life, and in this world. All right. So it is all about how we are dealing with our everyday stresses, our everyday life, or not dealing with it. So the first quarter is very much those things that I have explained, those everyday kind of stresses. If you come further down that continuum, we've got to a point where we start allowing, not allowing so much isn't the right word, but we are in a position where some of those things are sort of getting on top of us a little bit. Okay, so we're not being able to control how much of an impact these everyday things are having on us. So we've got bills to pay, we've got children to pick up from school, we've got dinner to sort out for this evening, we've got whatever that may be in our lives, we've got deadlines to meet at work, we've got YouTube videos to get sorted and out, and so there's so many things in our lives that we need to put into place, and it depends on how we are dealing with those things, all right, and how it's impacting us. So we can get to a point sort of halfway down that continuum where we're sort of slightly struggling, those things are sort of building up a little bit. We might be sort of be pretending that we've got this, it's under control, but in actual fact it is having an effect on how we are thinking, feeling, and behaving. All right. If we come further down that continuum, sort of down to the 3/4 of the way down, we get to a place where we're sort of, it's a bit more injured. We can call it injured, if you like, where it is actually affecting us, where it is affecting us mentally. Our lives are, things are getting a fair bit sort of on top of us, and we are in a place where we need to address things, and if we don't address things, we might be in trouble. Okay, that's where that's heading, right? So we're further down this continuum. Our symptoms of poorer mental health are sort of becoming a little bit established. They've been there for a while, they're sort of lingering around. So we're getting to a point where we're not so much in control. These things have sort of piled up a little bit, and it's affecting maybe our sleep, it's affecting how we're eating, it's affecting our relationships. We're maybe a little bit snappy, or we've withdrawn completely, we're sort of shutting people out. We may be, socializing isn't somewhere where we want to go right now because we're not in a good place. So we don't really want to be around people because that adds on to the anxiety you might be experiencing. So certain sort of situational anxiety, perhaps. So, we've got to a place where we really are sort of beginning to struggle. And then if things aren't addressed, we could come even further down this continuum where our mental health is, so the way where you're thinking, feeling, and behaving has got so out of control, and symptoms have become so established that it's no longer in our own control, possibly. Okay, we might be having, negative ruminating thought. I'm just not good enough. I just can't do this. Almost like giving up. And you might have suicidal ideations there as well. You might have thoughts of, I just don't want to be here. I can't cope with this. I can't manage this. I can't do this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be here. That kind of thinking. So at that point, it may be that, someone may need some professional support. It might not be just something that, some mindfulness techniques might be able to, get us out of. It might be something that we need, sort of medication perhaps, or counselling therapy perhaps. So it could be all kinds of things that we might need to put into place to help us get out of that a little bit and get us a little bit back up that continuum. So mental health is very much a continuum. It can change from one to another. You could be actually at the top, optimal, mental health, and all in the space of one day, you could actually hit that, that injured, completely injured bottom part of that continuum, all in the space of a day. it can happen. So it's very much about the fluidity and the way mental health can move up and down. And to be mindful about that. Sometimes I think that it's a good idea to check in. And I do that on a morning, is sort of the time where I may think, where am I at with my grief symptoms, where am I on the road of bereavement? Where am I? How does it look right now? Is it really gravelly? Is it really, what's the word? Turbulent, or is it sort of pretty smooth at the moment? And I'm walking along, and and it's okay. I'm dealing with things. So it depends on where. And I think, having that check-in, for me, it's very much in the morning, but to have a certain time of the day where you do check in, with yourself is quite important. So that sometimes you can put things into place where, things may help you to get you sort of up that continuum again and help you to feel better. So it's having the ability to step outside of yourself and look at yourself and say, where am I? What's going on with me? What's happening with me? What's happening in my life? What's happening in my life that I feel that I have a lot of control over, and I feel that I've got this, and what kind of things am I feeling that sort of things that maybe are sort of drowning me in ways that I can possibly help myself with. So there's certain things that we can help ourselves with, and certain things that we can't, obviously, and I've talked about those. So I think it's having some education about and some knowledge about mental health, I feel, empowers us. If we think about our immune system, and we talked a lot about our immune system through COVID, didn't we, when it was sort of said, when if we have a strong immune system, then when that virus hits, we are better equipped to dealing with those viruses and that virus. So, and the outcome will be more positive. I feel that having knowledge about mental health is improving what's the word I'm thinking of? Our immunity for up here. Okay, so how we think. And I feel that when life throws a curveball, and life often does, so things that happen in our lives that will cause us mental distress, we are then better equipped at dealing with those things when things do happen, if we have thought about it beforehand, if we have thought about mental health and what mental health is and what it means and how it affects us. I feel that we are then better equipped to dealing with things when things happen. Right? So I find all that very empowering, and I think with having that knowledge about mental health definitely helped me when I've gone through, and obviously the most horrid event in my life was losing my son. But because I felt that I had things in place, I was better equipped to dealing with the emotions and the difficulties and the struggles that came my way. Yeah, having that knowledge was empowering. So I'm glad for it. And then my training in counselling also helped me. It just made sense of, I found it easier to make sense of what was going on in my head more efficiently because of my prior knowledge. And also I have a very much of that self-help seeking type of attitude. I'm a very glass half full kind of person, and all those things, so I do try and see the positive side of most things. And some, obviously seeing any sort of positive side of losing a child is not there at all, but the outcome moving forward with is definitely something that I can see the positive side of. And that's when I talked about in my video, the fork in the road. I talked about the options I felt I had once I lost, after losing my son, sadly. Okay. So I hope this video has been of help to you in addressing what is mental health, because we talk about mental health, we hear it all the time, but what exactly is it? Is a good question to ask ourselves. So I hope that we've answered that question in this video. If you feel that this video might be beneficial to somebody else, please do share it. Do comment. That would be good to get a discussion going. And please do subscribe, because I want to build this community, and I can only build a community if we get numbers on, and make this a safe platform for us to have discussions where we've got each other's back, where we can make a difference. And I feel that, and reach out, don't struggle in silence. Please just take that first step and reach out. And it's okay to say that you're not okay. That's all right. So please do that. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and supporting this video as well. I do so appreciate it. Until next time, please take care, your hearts and souls. Thank you.